Alright guys, welcome back to another Patreon request, and this one comes from Bill McLaughlin, who asked me to do a faction war, which, for those who don't know, faction war is basically another Patreon exclusive video where I take two different armies and talk about like who would win in a fight between the two. So yeah, as always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the 3rd tier, that'll allow you access to do everything else over on Patreon, as well as send me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But yeah, so let's get started. So as you can see, this faction war is going to be fun because it is the Death Korps of Krieg from from Warhammer 40k versus the 501st Legion from Star Wars. It's been a long day. I'm a little frazzled. Anyway, so Death Korps versus 501st. The short answer of this is, and I'm not going to do this to piss off Warhammer fans, but like, this is the best way to describe this fight is if you put World War I German troops against modern day US military. It's not gonna go well for one of these two factions. So yeah, that's the short answer. Here's the long answer. Let's talk about our two factions, starting off with the Death Korps of Krieg. The Death Korps of Krieg comes from a planet that has been ravaged by war, and they are guardsmen of sorts, where they once tried to betray the Imperium, and now they've suffered for it ever since. Like, they've basically been, they've been punishing themselves ever since that, with fanatic loyalty, to the point where commissars are deployed alongside the Guard, not so much to shoot them in case they retreat, but more like to keep them from charging. It's said that since they go by numbers, it's believed that they are cloners in a way, though that hasn't been confirmed. Now, the Death Korps of Krieg is just, do you want to fight? I want to fight. Let's fight. And they will jump out of their trenches with so much as a shovel, and run at you wearing a gas mask and las guns that are fucking useless. That's not to say that the Krieg isn't useless. The Death Korps lives up to its name. These guys have probably some of the highest body count of any of the Warhammer Guardsmen factions. Probably because they go in numbers, and the moment they climb out of those trenches, they ain't running back to them. They're gonna run at you with everything they have and kill you with their bare hands. They don't have a lot of armor, they don't have the highest level of tech, but what they have is just sheer numbers. So you have to give them a lot of credit because these guys do have quite the body count to them. But they basically, the only thing that goes through their mind when they're in battle is Krieg. Krieg. And then they'll just they'll just come swarming out of their trenches at you. Now, the same cannot be said for for the Krieg's opponent in this matchup, the 501st Legion. Arguably one of the best trained and most battle-hardened clone battalions in Star Wars. Of course, they have Anakin Anakin Skywalker leading them, and also, for this matchup, Anakin will not be a part of this. We're taking Anakin out of this matchup. It's just the clones. But still, the 501st Legion have arguably seen some of the hardest and most bloodiest fights of the Clone Wars, led by Captain Rex, when Anakin Skywalker isn't around. The clone troopers of the 501st are packed with some of the best weaponry, the best gear, and also these guys know how to fight hand to hand. These clones, like I've said, are battle hardened. They're ready for combat, and they're ready for anything that comes at them. So what would it be like? So, ignoring the short answer I gave earlier, what would it be like if the 501st and the Death Korps of Krieg went head to head? Now, numbers are kind of a thing. The 501st Legion has probably one of the largest clone battalions in the Army of the Grand Republic. The Krieg, on the other hand, is a whole goddamn planet. But the thing of it is, while numbers would help, tech's kind of a big thing. Warhammer, as cool as it is, and for all the horrors and cool technology you see, the problem is that a lot of it ain't great. A lot of it's pretty Stone Age compared to, like, Star Trek and especially Star Wars. The 501st Legion, we can make fun of Clone Trooper and Stormtrooper armor as much as we want, but that stuff can hold up. While I do think that the weapons that the Death Korps have, they don't have a lot of it. And the other thing is, these guys, the 501st, these guys come packing with not just, blasters and numbers. They come packing with tanks, aircraft, artillery, a lot of shit. These guys come technologically prepared for any kind of combat. These guys have to fight armies of droids that can be built in a factory in a matter of seconds. That's not to say the Death Korps don't have the same level of battle experience. The Death Korps have taken on, Tyranids, Tau, Eldari, anything that is a threat to the Imperium. They'll even fight themselves. Like, they are the whole... the best way to describe the Death Korps is that they are, like, I'll kick your ass! I'll kick your ass! I'll kick my own ass! Do you really believe your own hype? I am the hype! So, yeah. I do think the Death Korps beat them out on numbers, but on sheer technological advancement, like I said earlier, the best way to describe this is World War I Germany versus modern-day U.S. Army. That's the best way to describe it, and it's not going to turn out well for for one of these two factions. So as much as I love the Death Korps, the 501st Legion, in my personal opinion, get this. They have the tech, they have the training, they have the weaponry to do this. Now, not to say the Death Korps could probably beat, overwhelm them a few times. They don't have the tech and the gear to keep up with the 501st. They're not really, it's really hard to deal with opponents when they have a six-legged tank with a giant cannon that could go about 10 miles shelling you. It's really hard to keep up with that. But anyway, so you guys tell me in the comments below, who do you think would win in this matchup between the Death Korps and the 501st Legion? Just comment below, let me know. Once again, I'd like to thank Bill McLaughlin for this Patreon request. And like I said before, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube once you hit the 3rd tier. But other than that, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.